it depends from your perspective. Well, if you have to look at it from China's perspective, it was a success because it was able to, in a way, deceive the Duterte administration that you'll have Chinese public funding entering the country to finance his very ambitious Build program. And this, of course, caused the Duterte administration to shift its policy from challenging or balancing China, which was the policy of the previous administration, the late administration of Benigno Aquino III, which of course challenged China by filing a case against China in the Permanent Court of Arbitration, strengthening the alliance with the United States, and of course building up the armed forces of the Philippines to challenge China's expansive claim in the South China Sea. So in 2016, attracted by China's offer for financing its major infrastructure program, the Duterte administration bit the bait. So in a way, China successfully was able to cause a dramatic change in Philippine foreign policy, at least up to 2021. Of course, eventually, the Duterte administration realized that Chinese money was not actually entering. So eventually, it realized it was taken in for a ride by China. So by the latter part of the administration, the Duterte administration, you have, of course, the shift again back to the policy of challenging China. And of course, the current administration also took into account that China promised to give that much money, $24 billion, in October 2016. And of course, only a drop actually entered the Philippine economy. So it learned from the lesson. So in that respect, we could say China was very successful in basically causing a major shift in Philippine foreign policy. But of course, it only reached up to a certain level. By 2021, the previous administration realized that Chinese money was not entering. So again, this caused the former administration to adopt again a policy of challenging China again. And right now, of course, you have a full-blown challenge against China's maritime expansion in the South China Sea. Well, of course, when you have to look at the perspective of the Philippines, you only had two projects that had been funded by the Chinese. That is, of course, the Kaliwa Dam, which is, of course, an irrigation project which has nothing to do with connectivity. And, of course, you have the Chico River irrigation project. Again, it has nothing to do with connectivity. It's about to do with irrigation. The big ticket items, like, for example, constructing a rail system that would connect central Luzon with southern Luzon, the rail system in Mindanao, several projects fell flat. They were never implemented. You have memorandum of understandings being signed between China and the Philippines, but when it comes to the funding on project, nothing happened. So that's my assessment of the Belt and Road Initiative here in the Philippines. It was very challenging because they were able to at least convince President Duterte, but once they had to deal with the bureaucracies, that's where the problems started coming in. I still remember this. The Director General of the National Economic Development Authority, Ernesto Pernia, just before he resigned from government, this was November 2019, said, Chinese money was not actually coming in. And he said for, one very important reason, we're more used to Japanese and South Korean official development assistance, wherein actually money enters the economy, but of course the government, and of course with the advice of Tokyo or Seoul, would choose the company that will, of course, undertake the project. Of course, it's a totally different story when you have the Chinese. The Chinese will bring them everything, workers, raw materials, logistics of those workers will be operating. Everything would be constructed by Chinese companies that will, of course, be chosen by the Chinese authorities in Beijing. Money does not actually leave China. Money just changes hands in China. And, it's simply because the Philippines is not used to such arrangement. It does not generate employment. It does not generate transfer of foreign exchange. And of course, it does not generate economic development in the country. So that's the reason why you only have 2 projects that were actually being implemented right now. Not anymore. Not after, of course, this current administration has, of course, challenged China. When President Marcos went to Beijing in January, China offered him $24 billion, mixed investments. A large part of that, of course, also in official development assistance for infrastructure development. But many of them were actually recycled from the Duterte administration, specifically the 2 rail projects. Eventually, at the end of the day, the current administration realized that Chinese money would not be coming because, again, China linked the implementation, the BRI, with its state of relations with the Philippines. And of course, since this current administration took over, it has basically adopted again a policy of challenging China, gravitating closer again to the United States, allowing the United States to establish more enhanced defense cooperation sites in the Philippines, initiating, of course, joint maritime patrols in the South China Sea, West Philippine Sea. And of course, I don't know if you've taken note of how President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. used his intervention during the East Asian Summit, during, of course, the ASEAN Summit in Jakarta, to basically express his opposition to what he called Chinese hegemony in the South China Sea. So given the current state of Philippine-China relation, it is very doubtful that you will have any more project that will be funded by China through the Belt and Road Initiative here in the Philippines.